Awesome. Lots of yeses. Love it. Cool. Well, thanks everyone for taking the time. My name's Nick Patrick. I'm the co-founder and CEO at Radar. And today we're going to be building a pickup and delivery tracking iOS app in 15 minutes. I actually just timed it. It might take me about 20 minutes. I'm going to go really fast. So I think this one is probably going to be a little bit tough to live code alongside of me. But the hope is to sort of spend a couple minutes talking about the use case and Radar, spend about 15, 20 minutes building the app, and then hopefully reserve a few minutes at the end for Q&A. So with that, I'm just going to go ahead and dive in. A little bit about me first. I'm the co-founder and CEO at Radar. We are a location developer tools startup in Brooklyn. I studied computer science at Duke and worked at Microsoft and Foursquare after college. And I've been building iOS apps for over 10 years now, which is kind of hard to believe. Started like right after the App Store came out and you could start building your own iOS apps. So I'm going to walk you through building a very simple iOS app today. And just to frame the use case, I'm sure most of you have used Uber before. Uber is a very location-oriented app, everything from being able to search for a pickup point or a drop-off point, when you request a ride, sort of seeing your driver's live location and the ETA for them to get to you. And this is really cool, powerful functionality. And what we want to do with Radar and what we're hoping to show today is how you can add some similar functionality to your own apps. And we're going to be focusing on curbside pickup and delivery use cases. I'm sure many of you have ordered a pizza from Domino's before. I know I have ordered a bunch. And Domino's has this really cool pizza tracker that kind of shows you what the status of your order is. And wouldn't it be cool to have a sort of live location tracking experience where you could see the delivery driver, for example? So delivery is one sort of interesting use case. With the COVID-19 pandemic, curbside pickup has become super popular. This is a photo of a curbside pickup zone at Target. The idea is that you place your order online or in the Target app. You pull up to the store and check in, and somebody brings your order out to you. So kind of quick and convenient and also safe. This is a photo of Dick's Sporting Goods, also offers curbside pickup. McDonald's offers curbside pickup in their app as well. So you place an order, it basically says, hey, here's your order number, go to the McDonald's and check in when you get there, and we'll bring your order out to you. And so these use cases are very popular. I think a question would be, how can we make this experience even more amazing? And one way that we could do that is by adding live ETAs and location tracking. You can imagine that you drive to the McDonald's, for example, and instead of having to pull into the parking lot and find the right area and check in manually, what if they just knew that you were 2 minutes away and they could drop the fries in the fryer so that the food was hot and fresh when you arrived and you didn't have any wait times. And you can imagine a sort of similar experience with delivery tracking where you know exactly when your delivery person is about to arrive and you can go grab your food, grab your items with no waiting, no confusion. So that's the type of experience that we want to build really quickly. How do we do that? There's lots of moving pieces to this. That's where Radar comes in. So Radar provides developer tools for location. Our goal is to take these really powerful but challenging location use cases and make them really easy to build. In the same way that you might use a tool like Stripe for payments, or you might use Twilio to send a text message. You can think of Radar like a Twilio or a Stripe for location. So making it really easy to add location tracking, geofencing, location search, similar functionality to your app. And we have a bunch of different building blocks, everything from search APIs to geocoding, location search, to trip tracking, which is what we're going to be using today. So live location tracking and ETA calculation, and then also geofencing. And I'm sure some of you have heard of the term geofencing before. A geofence is basically a sort of virtual perimeter around a place. Could be a circle, could be a polygon, and geofencing will tell you if a device is inside of a geofence or outside of a geofence. And so Radar makes all of these things really easy. We have iOS and Android SDKs. So iOS and Android have very powerful location services capabilities out of the box, but they can be kind of challenging to use and use well. And Radar tries to abstract all of that away so you can add location tracking with just a few lines of code. We have a dashboard, which you'll see in a bit, that makes it really easy to draw geofences or import them and also visualize all of your trips and live device locations. And then integrations. And we plug into some tools that you may have heard of like Segment, but we also have webhooks and other integrations. If you wanted to, send your location data, send your Geofence entry events to another tool. This is a little video we just made. We have this sort of Radar SimCity type view to kind of show how all the tools could be used together. So you might call our search API to display nearby places. You might call our routing or distance APIs to kind of show the route or the ETA to a location. Trip tracking, which I'm going to show you in a second, which will track a location, show a live ETA, and then Geofence entry events when you arrive at the destination. So I thought this was kind of cool. And let's jump into the implementation. Let's jump into the demo. So we're going to be using Radar trip tracking to add pickup and delivery tracking to an iOS app with live ETAs. And so in the interest of actually compressing this into 15 minutes, let's imagine that we just placed an order VN56 in our favorite fast food app, and we wanted to add pickup tracking with live ETAs to that app. This screenshot sort of says, hey, just go to the restaurant and check in, but let's add live ETAs and trip tracking. And there's going to be 6 steps to integrate. The first is going to be signing up for Radar, which I think some of you have already done today, which thank you, that's awesome. The second is going to be to create a geofence for the restaurant. Third is going to be to integrate the Radar SDK. And then we're going to actually implement the trip tracking functionality. So we'll add a button that says, I'm on my way. When the user taps that, we're going to start tracking and start a trip to that destination geofence. We'll show you how to use the Radar dashboard to actually view that trip and view the live ETAs. And then when the trip is done and the user taps, I'm here, we're gonna stop tracking. And this tutorial is actually available without the video, but hopefully we'll add this video or another video later at radar.io/documentation/tutorials. And at radar.io/documentation, you'll find the SDK docs and the API docs as well. So with that, let's go ahead and get started. So I've already signed up for Radar. I have this MLH demo project. The first thing you see when you sign up for Radar is your API keys. And this is when you integrate the SDK or you make an API call, you'll use these API keys to sort of authenticate your app. And that way Radar will know which project your app is connected to. The next thing that we want to do is create a geofence. So Radar has tools to import a bunch of geofences. There's some documentation for that. We can also just go to new and we can search for a place. And in this particular example, I'm going to say McDonald's, Grand Street, Jersey City, New Jersey. Radar is based in Brooklyn, but I'm over in Jersey City right now. And you can see we actually show that on a map. We do a 100-meter radius circle geofence by default. We can change the size of that if we want. We can draw a polygon geofence. And you can basically put whatever identifiers you want on the geofence. In this particular example, I'm going to use the tag restaurant. And the external ID might be like the restaurant ID. I'll just put 1, 2, 3 here. And you could put other metadata on this, like drive through, true or false. But we'll just go with this. And click create. And so now we have a geofence with tag restaurant and external ID 1, 2, 3. Depending on your use case, you could create geofences representing anything. College campuses, buildings on your campus, the airport, a store, a mall, whatever. But in this example, we have a geofence with tag of restaurant and ID 1, 2, 3. So now we're going to go into Xcode, and I've already created a project just to speed things up. I saw a question, would this work with Flutter apps? We don't have Flutter support right now. We do have React Native support and Capacitor and Cordova support, as well as native iOS and Android. And I saw Ezra just drop the link to the web SDK. We are thinking about adding Flutter soon. So create a project. If you're going to sort of follow along here, you might just create a very simple single view app. I've already done that. And I've just called it Curbside. I've also already dragged the Radar SDK into the project. You can download the framework off of GitHub. We also have CocoaPods and Carthage support if you're using one of those package managers. You can just drag it into the project, and it's going to be linked automatically. And let's see, what else do we need to do here? We also need to, in capabilities for the app, add background modes. And because we're going to be tracking location in the background, sort of a live tracking ETA thing, we want to check location updates and then also background fetch. I've also already gone ahead and gone into the plist and added permission strings. So anytime you want to use location in an app, you need to basically show a location permissions prompt. And there's a when in use usage string, which is for kind of when in use foreground tracking, and then an always and when in use description, which is for background tracking. So I already just went ahead and added these. You can do this yourself, click add row and search for privacy location. But I just said this app uses your location during curbside pickup to make sure your food is hot and fresh on arrival. And now I think we're ready to actually start writing some code. So we've already dragged the Radar SDK into the project. We're just going to go ahead and import it. And app delegate is kind of the main class of your iOS app where you kind of control the app lifecycle. We need to do two things here. We need to initialize the Radar SDK, and we need to request location permissions. Radar SDK automatically imports core location. So I'm going to create a CL Location Manager instance. CL Location Manager is the kind of core location class in iOS that lets you start tracking and all of these things. Radar actually kind of uses this internally and abstracts it away, but we do need to request location permissions. So you're just going to do self.location manager, and you can request always authorization for background tracking. Or when in use authorization, which is for foreground tracking. That's what we're going to use here. And when we start tracking, I'm sure most of you have used Google Maps or Waze and kind of seen that flashing blue bar that shows that location tracking is active. You're gonna see that here as well. And then we are going to initialize the SDK. Can we download the Radar SDK through a pod file? CocoaPods will basically install the framework for you. I will want to make sure I finish on time, but I'll drop a link at the end of the presentation. So initialize publishable key, and now we're going to go back into the dashboard and we're going to grab our API key. We're going to use the test publishable key. We have tests in live environments. Publishable is meant to be used in your app, so grab the test publishable key and drop it in here. And this is going to connect the SDK to our project. So let's build the app and just make sure everything compiles. Fingers crossed. Installs the app. Cool, good to go. I have added a very simple UI here. So if we jump over to the storyboard, I basically just gone and dragged a couple labels on here. So I said order placed. Your order number is VN56, and then a button. This is where you would add components and just drag them on. So a button that says I'm on my way. So just kind of stubbed this out already. Cool. So we've initialized the SDK. We've requested location permissions. I think because I had this app installed, permissions have been granted already. You can always check to see an app's location permissions by going to privacy, location services. Here's the app. So while using has already been granted. So we're good to go here. But if this were a fresh install, you would see the permissions prompt. So we've requested permissions, we've initialized the SDK, and I think now we're ready to actually start tracking. So let's go ahead and hook this button up to our view controller. For those of you who have done iOS programming before, you basically hook your views, your UI components up to a view controller where you can actually do things when you interact with the view. So let's go into our view controller, and we're going to add an IB action. This basically says that a function can be accessed from the UI, from the storyboard. And we're going to say did tap button, and we're going to add a button param. You can see this empty circle here means that we haven't actually connected it yet. So we'll go back into our storyboard, go to the view controller here, and basically I'm going to click on this button. I'm going to hold Control, and I'm going to drag. I'm going to drag it to the view controller, and you can see sent events, did tap button. Good to go. So now when we tap this button, it's going to call this did tap button function in our view controller. And let's add a variable pickup started to basically track whether the pickup has been started or not. And let's add the tracking logic. So we'll say if a pickup has not been started, here is where we're going to start the trip. Otherwise, we are going to stop the trip. Pretty straightforward. So we're going to be calling some radar classes. So let's import radar SDK here again. And basically, here we want to start a trip and start location tracking. So radar trip options is basically the class that you use to kind of specify information about a trip. We're using the order ID of VN56, but you could kind of pass in whatever ID you wanted here. We're going to do destination geofence tag. So every trip can have a destination geofence. If you remember, we created this geofence at the start with a tag of restaurant and an external ID of 123. So we're just going to use that here. Destination geofence external ID with 123. A trip can have a mode of transportation. It could be foot, bike, or car. That's going to calculate the live ETAs. So we'll just use car here. So the ETA is going to be the driving distance from the device's current location to the destination. And then we're going to start the trip. And we'll just pass the trip options there. And we are also going to call start tracking. So in radar parlance, a trip is basically a sequence of location updates with an ETA and some IDs and metadata attached. You also need to call start tracking to actually fire up location tracking with whatever settings you want to use. And radar has a bunch of different customizable tracking options and also some presets. We're just going to use continuous here, which is good for these live location tracking type use cases. Let's go ahead and toggle the button title over to just say I'm here. So it's going to say I'm on my way to start. We're going to toggle it over to I'm here. And let's change the status. So pickup started is true. So when we tap the button, this is all going to happen. We're going to start the trip. We're going to start tracking. We're going to change the button label, and we're going to update the state. Here, I'm just going to do the opposite. So this means that pickup started equals true. Will the code files be posted after? Yes, actually, this sample code is in our docs. If you go to radar.io, docs, tutorials, curbside pickup, you'll see code that's very similar to this. Stop the trip. Stop tracking. And let's just kind of add the logic here to toggle this back. So I'm on my way, state normal, and pickup started equals false. Cool. So we've connected the button to our code. We've added the logic, and I should now be able to run the app. And fingers crossed, we tap I'm on my way. You can see this little arrow got filled in here. So if I go out of the app, you can see location tracking has been started. I'm sure you've seen this flashing blue bar before if you're using Google Maps or Waze, but location tracking has started. And if we go into the radar dashboard, we can now actually see that there's a user here. So radar is going to show the current location of every device. This is just the device ID. We could also identify the user if we wanted to, but we don't need to do that here. And we can see the user. We can also see that the trip has been started. So here's a trip with the ID that we passed in this case, the order ID, a destination geofence. You can see it's active and the ETA is 5 minutes. We can actually view that trip. Here's the origin. This is the device's current location, and here's the destination, that destination geofence. What's really cool is radar also has some tools to kind of visualize, hey, like who's taking a trip to a given geofence. So I can actually go to the destination geofence page. We're back here. And this is for paying users only. So you won't see this if you sign up for a free account. But a trips dashboard that actually shows a list of all of the trips to a destination geofence. And you can see a map, which is pretty cool. So you can imagine this being shown on an iPad or on a screen in the restaurant. It's showing everybody who is on the way to the destination. And pretty cool. Now it's not moving because I am spoofing my location in the simulator with a custom location. And there are some kind of pre-programmed, runs, biking routes, driving routes in here. Radar also offers some functionality that's pretty cool to mock tracking from an origin to a destination. So if you want to simulate a sequence of location updates, you can do that as well. And so instead of calling radar.startTracking, we're going to call radar.mockTracking. And I've already sort of pulled the origin and destination lat log. So I'm just going to paste this in, but you're passing in a CL location object with a latitude and longitude. You can simulate using a particular mode of transportation. We'll use car here to match the kind of expected mode of the trip. Steps is the number of location updates. So let's do 10 location updates or 10 steps. And interval is the number of seconds between each location update. And then there's a completion handler that'll give you like a status code, a location, some events, like there's a Geofence entry event and a user. So we won't do anything here for now. But now what's going to happen is instead of calling start tracking and kind of using the real location of the device, we're going to call mock tracking, and radar is going to simulate a trip from an origin to the destination. So let's run the app again and tap I'm on my way. And now the trip is started and we're going to be mock tracking. And if I refresh this page, you can see that the user is now going to move, which is pretty cool. So let's wait a second and see if it updates. So you can see the dot is moving. You can see that the ETA is updating. We could also view this kind of on the trips page or the user page in the main radar dashboard. Now we're 1 minute away, and after 30 seconds, it should finish simulating this, and it should say arrived. And we've arrived, which is awesome. And we can also go back into the dashboard here. Again, view the user's location. They're at the McDonald's. We can go back to the trip. And you can see, I guess I've simulated a couple location updates here, so it looks a little messy, but you can see the path of the trip. I can also go back and click I'm here, which will stop the trip, which is pretty cool. And you can see a bunch of events for the destination. So you can see when the trip is updated. You can see an arrival event. You can also see a Geofence entry event for McDonald's. And so even if you're not using trip tracking, you can just create a Geofence and listen for these Geofence entry and exit events. You can imagine using this Geofence event to send a push notification saying, hey, welcome to McDonald's, your order is ready, like pull into parking space number 2 or whatever. Or maybe you're showing a sort of in-restaurant mode when you're there. And that's basically it. So just to recap, we signed up for Radar, we got our API keys, we created a Geofence for the restaurant. Again, Geofences can represent whatever you want, but just a restaurant here. We integrated the Radar SDK, a couple lines of code. We started location tracking and started a trip when a user tapped the button. We've shown how to use the Radar dashboard to show live ETAs in the dashboard. And we stopped the trip when the user tapped I'm here. And that's it. And this is just one use case. We always say at Radar, one platform, any use case, any sort of location use case, whether it's a scavenger hunt, find my friends app, or whatever you might build at a hackathon. We've had folks build, COVID-19 alert apps. You can use our tools to build location-based features really, really quickly and easily. And if you go to our documentation, you'll see the SDK reference. Here's some of the tutorials that I mentioned. We're producing a bunch more of these, but I will show you how to build a store locator or show some in-app messaging based on location as well. And if you want to just play around with this, you can also download our Toolkit app, which is our sample app, and you can just copy and paste your API key in. And we've kind of already implemented the SDK for you. You can start and stop tracking and view your events in the app as well. So it's a good way to kind of quickly test. And that's all I've got. Looks like we've got 3 minutes left. I'm happy to take questions if there are any, and if not, that's cool too. Ashley asks, where can we download the toolkit? If you go to radar.io/documentation, or just click on the docs link in the header, and click on toolkit on the left side, it has links for the App Store and the Play Store. And when you download the app, you'll see a settings screen pop up. You can basically grab your API key. You're going to want to get your test publishable key from the Radar dashboard and paste it into the Toolkit app. And then when you click the track button, you should see your users show up in the dashboard. Let's see. Are there limitations to location search API worldwide? It does work worldwide. We have the best coverage in the United States. We've kind of been focused on address and place data there. We're going to be launching some new data sets soon. So the idea is to be able to let you all create custom geofences if you have your own locations or your own location data that you want to import. But we also want to make it really easy to tap into out-of-the-box place data for places or admin boundaries. Our place search API, for example, you can pass in a chain ID. I'll do McDonald's here and pass in a radius. And so this is going to show all the McDonald's within 10 kilometers of this lat long. Pretty cool. So you could just tap into our out-of-the-box place data as well. Ezra says, what features are behind the paywall and are there ways to get credit to use some of those features? So the geofencing and trip tracking functionality that I showed you today are totally free. The out-of-the-box places and regions events are paid, but you can use the place search APIs for free. And you can make up to 100,000 monthly API requests and have 1,000 monthly track users, which is a lot. We also do have a startup program. So if you all are working on side projects or companies and sort of recently seed funded, you can request several months free of Radar as well. I think my time is up. Last question. Swift language, or can we use Python and Java? We're going to be working on additional SDKs. There is a Python SDK, maybe hasn't been updated for a while, but our goal is to have SDKs for every language, every platform. We've been kind of focused on web and smartphones to start, but hopefully we'll launch Python, Java, Go, Ruby SDKs in the future. Awesome. Thanks, everyone. Really appreciate it. I'm going to stop sharing and go on mute, but appreciate everybody taking the time and have fun. Shoot me a note. My email is nick@radar.io if you have any questions. And thanks, everyone.